Hello, my name's Starling, and I am a clinical aromatherapist, and today I'm procrastinating. Uh, Recently, I've been doing research into oral intake of essential oils and how that can affect the metabolization of certain drugs by specific gut enzymes, and so needless to say, my brain hurts. But I came across this product that I took apart and realized that it was hilariously awful. And so I want to talk about that today. And what it is a little product from a company you may have heard of called Avon. And it is their Avon Aromatherapy Minding My Mood 4-in-1 Essential Oil Blends. It goes for $40 Canadian, and the product number is 2218396. So the other day, my son came into our room at around 3:30, and he sleeps like a starfish, so he takes up the entire bed and essentially kicked me out of it. So I went into his room, tried to fall asleep again, but I couldn't. So then I got, going through the internet and trying to find something that was interesting, and somehow I found myself on the Avon website, not really looking to buy anything, but just to see, because they had become an MLM. I wanted to see what was different or how it looked. Mind you, I'd never bought anything when Avon was having websites how they do now. This is the first I've ever been on their website, so I wasn't really able to tell too much of a difference. I would need a catalog for that. But then I came across the fact that they're selling essential oils, and then I started reading their essential oils, and I'm going to do a few of these episodes because it's hilarious. But I decided to focus on one thing in particular because of just how misguided. Clearly, they don't understand what they're talking about. And in the end, turns out to be a total scam that I just had to. I just had to talk about this. So the product I'm talking about, again, is the Avon Aromatherapy Minding My Mood 4-in-1 Essential Oil Blends. Product number 2218396. The price is $40. So let's just read what they say, and if any red flags come up, please take note because there's a lot, and this is great. So, help improve the well-being of your mind, body, and spirit with our natural fragrance oils. Formulated with premium ingredients, our essential oil blends are an easy addition to anyone's routine and can help perk up someone's mood or help them relax. Bottle Dropper makes it easy for you to experience the texture and scents. Find your inner bliss with our calm oil featuring comforting lavender and soothing star anise. Our Energize oil will help you feel refreshed and focused with lively mandarin and stimulating Ylang Ylang. Hyperallergenic, Dermatologist Tested, 50 milliliters each. There are many ways to use this set. Apply directly to your pulse points, wrists, neck, temples, and soles. Add a few drops to a warm bath. Mix a few drops into a body lotion. Add drops to a room diffuser. Not for oral use. Read and follow the label directions and precautions. Okay, so I will get to the ingredients below after I'm done breaking apart the description. And before I go on, just the guarantee thing, that's just their money back return policy, so it has nothing to do with the product in and of itself. So, where are we going to start on this? We're going to start looking at the language that they're using to describe this product. The first red flag is that in the very first sentence of the very first paragraph, they say natural fragrance oils. That's not essential oils. Natural fragrance oils can mean natural identic oils, which is a cheaper product that takes essential oils and mixes them with synthetic perfume oils to get something that's a little bit more close in resemblance to the actual essential oil or plant, because fragrance oils do kind of not quite, they're a bit uncanny valley where they're there, but they're not quite on point. There's some that are really good, but for the most part, they don't quite make it there. And so it allows for a more legitimate smelling scent without the price or the therapeutic medicinal benefits or complications of the essential oils, because we have to remember essential oils are from plants, therefore they have compounds that can affect your health both positively and negatively. So when I hear natural fragrance oils, I'm thinking either these are natural identic oils, which means they're not pure essential oils, or they're fragrance oils that they slap the word natural on, because that doesn't mean anything, and technically everything's natural. Everything comes from nature to some degree. There's nowhere else you can get stuff. But yeah, so that's my first red flag. The second one is that in the second sentence they go back to saying it's essential oils. Well, which one is it, lady? It's just interesting. In the second paragraph, what I find interesting is they say comforting lavender and soothing star anise. If those are actual essential oils, that's very questionable why they would choose, especially the star anise. And we'll get into that in a minute. We're going to pick apart the actual choices of the essential oils that they claim are in there and why it's not exactly the best idea. The second one is mandarin and Ylang Ylang. Again, we're going to look into those in a bit more detail in a second, but I find it interesting that they say that this has Ylang Ylang and that the very next word is hyperallergenic. Ylang Ylang is not an oil that I would consider to be hypoallergenic at all, especially if you have sensitive skin, psoriasis, eczema, damaged skin, issues like that. You don't want to be around Ylang Ylang. The other problem with saying that something's hyperallergenic is that there's no qualifier to be able to call something that. Nothing is 100% hyperallergenic. Even dog breeds where people say that they're hyperallergenic are not 100%. There's still going to be people who are going to be sensitive to them. So it's a bit of a buzzword. They're throwing this in to make it seem like it's better for you or safer for you. And really, it doesn't mean anything. The second issue with this is the Dermatologist Tested. And as soon as I saw this, I'm like, okay, now we're really dealing with some bunk here, because it doesn't say dermatologist approved or certified or recommended. It says dermatologist tested, which means that it could have failed, it could have passed, or maybe it got it incomplete because they slept in on the day of the exam. That doesn't mean anything. I can send my poo in to a lab to be tested for dermatitis issues. Will this poo, when applied to skin, cause an outbreak? That doesn't mean it should be used. It doesn't mean that it passed or failed. And it even doesn't mean that it even sent the damn thing in, because there is no guarantee upon what the outcome of the tests are. Hence, dermatologist tested pretty much means absolutely nothing. This could have sent off boils and hives and made the skin fall off in the test room. You can still say it was dermatologist tested. So bunk. Absolute bunk here. So let's start picking apart the ingredients. The first bottle, the calm one, they say has lavender and star anise. Okay, what kind of lavender? English, French, spike, lavandin, lavandin grosso, lavandin abrilis. I mean, the lavandins are botanically lavandula, so I could still include them and say lavender. They don't tell you. There's no botanical or even common term being used with it, just lavender. There is a whole world of lavender out there, and not every lavender is equal to each other. Even within the English lavender varieties. English lavender is actually the only lavender that has sedative properties. The other ones are stimulants. And even English lavender in large amounts can actually become a stimulant as opposed to a sedative. Also, there's something called population. What that means is that the lavender was grown above a certain altitude and it has higher camphorous properties in it, making the smell a lot sharper, which is not one that I necessarily would recommend for aromatherapy uses if you're trying to relax and calm down. I would say maybe a nice Bulgarian. But okay, they say it's just lavender, so I'm going to assume that they mean English lavender, and just a basic Bulgarian is what I'm going to assume, because they're not making me think anything else otherwise. So, Star Anise, this was the one that really went beyond just waving a red flag. It went to WTF mode. Star Anise is not a commonly used essential oil, and for reasons. The issue is many. Let's start by those who should never go near Star Anise essential oil. Those who are pregnant, breastfeeding, have endometriosis, have had or are at risk of estrogen-dependent cancers, children under the age of 5, those who are on diabetic medication, anticoagulant medications, those who have undergone major surgery recently, those who have peptic ulcers, those who have or carry the gene for hemophilia or other bleeding disorders. Based upon the estradiol and safrole contents of the Star Anise essential oil, it can be at risk of performing reproductive hormone modulation and inhibit blood clotting, which isn't always good. I mean, yeah, you don't want to have blood clots forming in your body, but again, blood clotting, that's also scabbing. It helps you stop bleeding, hence, the hemophilia. Blood clotting is important. It also oxidizes really easily. And when essential oils become oxidized, they can burn your skin. There's actually a funny story. My husband gets into my stash of my essential oils, and I have hundreds because I'm a clinical aromatherapist. It's what I do. And for the most part, he has a vague idea of what he can use, what's safe, and things to ask about before using. Well, one of them was frankincense, and I had this one set to the side a bit because it had gone past its expiration date, and so I didn't want to be using it for skin applications. I was still going to put it in diffusers and stuff, but I had put it a bit to the side because it was no longer really recommended to be used on skin. He didn't know this, and he didn't ask. So he runs himself a tub, and he dumps a lot in because the stopper was gone. Because again, this was old. I took the stopper out, who knows how long before this happened. About maybe 10 minutes after he does that, I hear this screaming noise coming from the bathroom, and he had jumped out of the tub and was trying to wipe himself down and wash himself off at the same time. And I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, I am burning everywhere. Yeah, that was because the frankincense had become oxidized and it burnt his skin. So you want to avoid that. And some essential oils are more prone to doing this than others. But Star Anise apparently oxidizes really, really easily. So it has a very short shelf life, which means it's not really something you want to include in a pre-blended, pre-packaged kind of deal. Because you're going to want, if you want to use this, I don't know why, there's safer things out there, and it hasn't been studied for therapeutic purposes too much, so why are you bothering with this oil? You'd only want to really use it on a fresh basis, because this could be sitting in the Avon warehouse for who knows how long, probably getting oxidized. So that's a problem. The other issue with Star Anise and its quality is that it's often adulterated by something called technical anethol, which has high amounts of Z-anethol within it, which is toxic. So again, it's not something I would say is hyperallergenic and passed any tests with a dermatologist here. So, with the lavender, going back to that for a second, there's something else that should be known about when it comes to lavenders in general, and that has to do with pregnancy and nursing. Now, English lavender is one of the safest ones because it's low in camphor contents, unless its population weight is higher, but blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about that. But it definitely should be avoided in your first trimester. So that's another thing that I don't see them talking about. I mean, sure, it might be in the information when you get the package, but I'm buying this from the catalog/internet. Why should I have to find that out after I spend my money? Oh, I know why. So that you get my money. I see how it is. Okay, so English lavender itself is also problematic with adulteration issues. It is sometimes substituted with lavandin, spike lavender, Spanish sage oil, along with hoe oil and white camphor oils. Lavandin is in the family of lavender. It's a hybrid, but it's still a lavandula, and it has other issues similar to star anise, such as people who are on anticoagulants, had major surgery, have peptic ulcers, carry or have hemophilia, or have other bleeding conditions should avoid it. Spike lavender is a neurotoxin and should be avoided by pregnant and nursing women. As soon as I say it's a possible neurotoxin. And the spike lavender, along with English lavender, is sometimes prone to adulteration by Spanish sage oil, eucalyptus, and lavandin as well. The Spanish sage oil is extremely problematic because it's an abortifant, which is what that sounds like. It can cause miscarriages. Eucalyptus is very commonly used essential oil, but it can cause breathing issues and CNS depression issues. It should never be placed near or on the face of infants or even children under the age of 10. Eucalyptus is extremely toxic, and 5 milliliters can kill a child. The good news with eucalyptus is that it's really cheap, so the trail of adulteration, at least on this little offshoot, ends with it because it's so cheap to produce, which makes the fact that Avon is selling 10 milliliters of eucalyptus essential oil for $20 Canadian somewhat suspicious, because you should really only be paying for the packaging when it comes to eucalyptus oil because it's so cheap to produce. And even the most organic, non-GMO, fair trade, koala happy eucalyptus oil is pennies to produce because eucalyptus produces so much essential oil that it doesn't take much to make it. So yeah, the other issues with English lavender and adulterations is that it can also be adulterated with hoe oil, which has a lot of issues with itself. But I actually like the smell. It smells like rosewood, but it's priced like cedarwood, so I really like it. But also the white camphor. Camphor is dangerous. White camphor is the least dangerous of all the camphors out there, but they're still carcinogenic and have neurotoxins, and that's why you should really be sure if you're putting a Scotch mint in your mouth and not a mothball, because camphor is not safe. It has its point, but it's not something to just go and use willy-nilly. When it comes to synthetic additions, lavender is prone to adulteration with synthetic linalool. Now, linalool is actually a very common compound that you find in essential oils across the board, and it's totally safe. It's even pretty good for skin issues. It's not going to, I would say it's hyperallergenic. It's really good for skin issues. It does have sedative properties, and even, I'm not sure if the synthetic version or only the natural version, but if they're the same chemical compound, it shouldn't matter. But it even has anti-cancer activities in cell lines. But again, this is in addition to something, making it no longer 100% pure. So even though it's totally safe and might even have some benefits, it's an adulterant. So if I want to know if that's in there. There's also linoleum acetate, which again is a fairly safe little ester. It's in a lot of essential oils naturally, but it's also synthesized. And the interesting thing is that the synthesized one can cause skin issues as opposed to the natural. At least that's what studies we have are showing. So again, these are adulterants. They're not necessarily the most dangerous thing, but they're not exactly keeping all within the lines of being hypoallergenic. So, what's going on? Avon, why are you saying this is hypoallergenic? So, those are the two things to talk about when it comes to the calm oil. Now, let's look at the energizing bottle, and this one is actually even worse in some degrees. So let's start with mandarin. Mandarin essential oil is actually a really good oil to get. It does oxidize easily, but again, you can just keep it in the fridge. That's a place to put a lot of essential oils in the fridge, and a dark bottle that's on tight, and it should last a decent amount of time before it oxidizes and therefore is going to burn your skin. But mandarin is actually one that I can recommend for babies. Not a lot, not undiluted, but you can put a small amount in a tub, especially if they're teething and they're being really restless at night over that. A little bit of lavender, a little bit of Roman chamomile, because German chamomile sucks, and a little drop of mandarin in the bath at night, diluted with a coconut oil before you add to the water, can actually be really helpful. Other thing that is really nice about mandarin essential oil, that it is the least phototoxic of all the citrus oils, to the point that it's debated that it might be even completely free of that risk. So this is a citrus oil that you can apply to your skin and go worship the Aten afterwards and be fine, at least from the mandarin. You still might want to put some sunscreen on, but it's not going to cause a phototoxic repercussions from it, which is good. If you don't know what phototoxic means, it means that you're going to get a really, really, really bad sunburn, essentially. Don't do it. Beware of the bergamot. Bergamot is nasty for that. Anyways, so the mandarin's good, but something that's interesting about mandarin is it's a sedative. Yet this is in the energizing blend. It's a bedtime oil. Okay. Right, that's an interesting choice. So then we have Ylang Ylang. Now, Ylang Ylang's a little tricky of an oil, and you either love it or you hate it, and I'm in the middle, because I love a good quality one. A bad quality Ylang Ylang is going to smell a bit like an outhouse. Same with jasmine. It can get a bit funky. But I actually really like it, and one of my favorite blends is actually Ylang Ylang and cedarwood. But there is a world to Ylang Ylang that's a bit similar to the olive oil world. So there are 5 grades of Ylang Ylang essential oil plus an absolute. If you don't know what that means, please see my video where I describe the different ways that you can get essential oils, because absolute is one of the ways. But we're not going to talk about the absolute because I highly doubt that that's in here. Just so far, yeah, no, there's no absolutes in this thing. But when it comes to the distilled, there are 5 grades. There's extra, Ylang Ylang 1, 2, 3, and then complete. Now, Ylang Ylang extra 1, 2, and 3 are something that is called a fractional distillate, which means that it's made through the steam distillation process. And at a certain point within the distillation, the accumulated material is removed. And that creates the 4 grades. So the first remove is the extra, the second is 1, the third is 2, and the fourth is 3, just to make things confusing. And then the Ylang Ylang Complete is a mixture of all 4 grades. And that's when you can actually get an interesting variant on the scent, depending on how much of each different grade is put into the Complete. So it actually can get interesting to test smelling different Ylang Ylang Completes, because you can make quite an interesting different array of bouquet. So distilled Ylang Ylang oil also is prone to adulteration. It is adulterated with Gurajan balsam oil. This flower here, it's from Africa. It's Artabotrice unicinatus, and it looks very much like Ylang Ylang, and certain species are even called like vine Ylang Ylang. I couldn't find too many common names or much about it, but the flowers very much do look like Ylang Ylang flowers. And what happens is that they take the Artabotrice unicinatus flowers and throw them in with Ylang Ylang when they're doing the distillation. So that's where the adulteration happens with that. Often lower grades of Ylang Ylang are sold as higher grades. They use tail fractions and reconstituted oils. Also adding synthetics like benzyl acetate, methyl benzoate, benzyl benzoate, and phi-crysyl methyl ether. The Absolute, even though I'm pretty sure does not have that in there, is not prone to the same issues of adulteration. But both the Absolute and the distilled have a moderate skin sensitization risk. What that means is over time, and each oil is different, some take a lot, some don't take much at all, you develop essentially an allergic reaction. So at first, the very first time you use this, there's no problem, but by the 10th time, you're breaking out in hives or something like that. It also needs to be avoided by people who have disease, damaged, sensitive skin, along with babies under the age of 2. There are some reasons for this, and one of the issues is that within Ylang Ylang, there is a compound called isogenol, and it is essentially what makes things very dangerous when it comes to skin application. But what's interesting is that Madagascan Ylang Ylang doesn't seem to have the isogenol, as opposed to like Comoros Ylang Ylang. So that's something to know. Look at the sources of where your oils are coming from, because where they're grown can affect what compounds are within them. But I don't see Avon telling me where their Ylang Ylang is from, so I'm going to assume that it's from Comoros and could possibly give me a rash at some point. So again, like mandarin being a sedative, Ylang Ylang is also a sedative. And they said this is for what? For energy? Interesting choices, Avon. Right, okay. So far I am a bit disappointed from what I've been able to glean from their 2 little paragraphs here. They're dealing with oils that are somewhat dangerous, definitely not hypoallergenic. They're using the wrong oils and the wrong blends. Oh gosh, you can just tell they have no idea what they're doing. But then it gets worse, because we're going to look at the ingredients list now. So remember, from what we initially read here, this is essential oils. Okay, and they're again supposed to be hypoallergenic. Let's click on the ingredients. So the first ingredient they have written is macadamia seed oil. The first problem is that that's written in incorrectly according to regulations. There should be between the botanical name and saying seed oil a bracketed macadamia, just to keep with consistency. Second problem with it being macadamia nut is that macadamia nut should only make up around 10% of the total volume of the product, and they have it in the forefront. I'm suspicious that they put it there to make it seem like their product is of a higher quality and worth paying the $40 Canadian for. I highly doubt that the majority of this product is macadamia nut, especially when we talk about the other oils that are included. The last issue with the macadamia nut is that macadamia nuts are an allergen. They're saying this is hyperallergenic. Right. Now, mind you, macadamia nut allergy makes up only around 5% of all tree nut allergies. And the allergy when it comes to the nut oil is even rarer because you can be allergic to nuts and sometimes be okay to be around their oils. Not always, but it's not unheard of that you can be exposed to nut oils even though you can't eat the nuts themselves. However, it is still possible. They are saying that this product is hyperallergenic, which means that this product should not be here. If you're saying that this is safe for people who have sensitivities to things, choosing macadamia nut is not the smartest move here. But then again, they've included star anise and Ylang Ylang, or have they? But they claim that it's in there, so I'm not really surprised by this mess up of theirs. The second ingredient is the safflower seed oil. This is what I think probably does make up the majority of this product because it's really, really cheap. I can get safflower oil, about a liter of it, for a few dollars. And even if I go to the super fancy expensive grocery store in town, I can still get a liter for under $10. Not exactly premium. The third fixed or carrier oil, whatever you want to call them, is castor seed oil. Now, castor seed oil is good. It's about a mid-range sort of oil when we talk about aromatherapy or cosmetics. And it's good, and it's really actually really good for your hair. And if this was a hair product, like a hair oil, then I would say yes, this classifies as including a premium product. But because it's not being used in that purpose, I'm not considering it to be a premium product in this, because it's just a fairly inexpensive oil. Okay, so then we have the last two ingredients. Okay, what? Okay, am I seeing this? Are you seeing this? It says fragrance perfume. Okay. So all that talk about the essential oils and me going through all of them and talking about why they might not be the best choices, we don't have to worry about because there's no essential oils in here. Just like how the macadamia seed oil is technically not correctly listed, there should be a bracket and then macadamia end bracket. If this had essential oils in it, it would say the names. This says fragrance in perfume, which corresponds with regulation when you're listing fragrance oils. And this isn't even counting natural identical oils because those have botanical properties in them that you have to list. If it's just a synthetic fragrance oil, this is what you put down. Really, Avon? You want $40 for something that probably cost you a few pennies to throw together. I'm dumbfounded and not surprised at the same time. The last ingredient, caprylyl glycol, and I'm sure I'm not saying that right, that is a pretty standard cosmetic ingredient. It does have some skin moisturizing properties, but it's also a preservative and it prevents bacteria from forming within the product. It's fine. It's nothing to be scared of, but it's there, and that's what that is, in case you're wondering. So all of this that they say is bunk because natural identical oils and fragrance oils do not have aromatherapeutic properties to them. Sure, they smell nice and that could put you in a good mood, but aromatherapy is more than something that smells nice and puts you in a good mood. There is legitimate medical side to this, and fragrance oils are not included in that. and they're charging $40 Canadian for safflower oil. Pretty much. That's what you're paying for. So, do I recommend this product? Absolutely not. Do I think it's a scam? Most definitely. I rate it 0 hats out of 5 Hatshepsuts. I'm impressed. I really am, and not in a good way. So that's my review on this product of Avon's, the Avon Aromatherapy Minding My Mood 4-in-1 Essential Oil Blends. No, don't buy. I mean, okay, if you want to go waste your money and you really like the way that this smells, then fine, do what you want. But I would say go to New Directions, which is the wholesaler I go to, and you can get all these ingredients for practically nothing. Mind you, they do have a minimum order, so buy a few other stuff too, because they got really good prices on things. But yeah, you could make this for under $1. If you know where to go and buy things at real wholesale prices, unlike what doTERRA and Young Living try to say are wholesale prices. Those aren't. So, again, don't recommend. If you have any ideas of other products that you think I should review, please leave them in the comments below. I will be going through the other Avon essential oil aromatherapy products because I was scouring them before I decided to do this one, and there's some other very interesting and questionable choices that they've made in those blends as well. If you have any questions or concerns about your own health or a loved one's health and how essential oils can be used to help you, or which ones you should avoid, you can leave a comment below. And if you don't want to just leave it out there in public, just leave a comment saying, can I talk to you privately? And we'll make some form of contact and we can talk about those things. So yes, do not buy. And again, for the love of Imhotep, do not eat essential oils.